Hey, what's up everybody? Thanks for watching this week's video. We started a new series this week called Do Something. It's about injustice, and that's one of the things that I love about your generation is that you are very aware of injustice in our world, and you see it and you don't like it and you want to do something about it. But there is so much injustice in our world that sometimes it just feels easier to ignore it. But if we're going to be active Christ followers, that is not what we're called to do. In Matthew chapter 25, Jesus is talking to a group of people, and he's trying to tell them, these are the people who are following me, and these are the type of people who are not. So Jesus tells a story, like he typically does, to give an example of what that looks like. And so he says, imagine that there are people standing in front of me, and I look at them and say, you aren't following me. You ignored me. I needed clothes. I needed food. I needed somewhere to live, and you just ignored me. And then those people who are standing in front of him say, Jesus, what are you talking about? We've never seen you hungry. We've never seen you in need of clothes or shelter. And Jesus says, look around you. There are people right here who need all of those things. And you're choosing to ignore them. And when you ignore them, you're ignoring me. Jesus is trying to make the point that his followers not only choose to see the injustice around them, but they choose to do something about it. Which brings us to our first main idea, that before you can do anything about injustice, you have to see it. So how do we actively see the injustice around us? Well, here's 3 quick things to help get us there. Number 1, get close enough to see. Pray and ask God to help you see the injustice around you. And then spend some time with people who are different than you. This doesn't come natural to us because we want to be around people who look like us and sound like us and talk like us and have similar lives as us. But if we're going to see injustice, sometimes we have to get outside of our little bubble and we have to talk to people that we normally wouldn't talk to. Because whenever we interact with other people, we have an opportunity to see the world from their eyes. And even if you don't do anything in person, do a little research. Watch a movie about injustice. Read a book about injustice. Find out about organizations who are trying to make a difference in our world. And maybe find out how you can get involved. So number 1 is get close enough to see, which leads us to number 2, be curious enough to listen. The quickest way to see injustice is to listen to other people tell their story. When someone is sharing their experience about injustice, actually listen, and do more than that, actually try to learn something. These kind of conversations tend to be uncomfortable sometimes, which is not a bad thing. Injustice should make us uncomfortable. But don't let that keep you from having these conversations. I promise. These conversations are not going to kill you. It'll get uncomfortable, but you're going to survive. And to add to that, be aware of your own experiences with injustice. You may have seen something. You may have actually experienced something. And sometimes what we tend to do is we ignore it or pretend it never happened because it makes us uncomfortable. It doesn't make us feel good. So number 1, get close enough to listen. Number 2, be curious enough to listen and to learn. And number 3, be courageous enough to name it. That means if it's wrong, say it's wrong. If it's unfair, say it's unfair. Whenever we see injustice around us, or maybe even inside ourselves, call it for what it is, identify it. Because whenever we do that, we take away some of its power. Because we can't address, we can't fix, we can't make right things that we don't acknowledge. We have to talk about these things, and that might be the hardest part because you have to pick a side. It's risky, it can be awkward, it can be uncomfortable, but it is important. It's important because whenever we name it, we're also taking responsibility and doing our part to make it right. So listen, so much of following Jesus is learning how to do things that do not come natural to us. And like I said, one thing I love about your generation is that you are very aware of the injustice in our world. And that gives me a lot of hope and gets me excited because that means you may be the generation that actually does something about it. You can help all of us be aware of the injustice in our world. And together, maybe we can make this world a better place. And that's what this whole series is about. It's about seeing better so we can know better so that we can do better. Thanks for watching this week's video. I hope to see you in person soon. I'll see you later. Peace.